All right, you are listening to Jets Confidential Radio with the editor of Jets Confidential, Dan Leberfeld, for this Monday, October 3rd, 2011. I'm your host, Greg DePalma, and we've got a lot to get to, so let's get right to it. So welcome in Dan Leberfeld to the program. Dan, good to have you join us once again.
It's nice to be with you, Pigskin.
All right, Dan, the most important thing that we can talk about probably on this show is the recent news that Brian Thomas is done for the year.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like a torn Achilles the second it happened. He couldn't walk on it, and then the doctors, he was holding his Achilles, and then the doctors came out, and he was carted off. So that's it for his season, unfortunately, for Brian Thomas. Though I think Jamal Westerman can fill in and do a solid job, so it might be a little drop-off, but I don't think that much.
Yeah, with Westerman, also with Mauga at another outside linebacker spot, and with at least a small emergence of Aaron Maybin last night, probably the best game he's ever played in the NFL, even though it was only a few plays, but still, considering how weak the Jets' pass rush has been, maybe that is a really big boost for the Jets' pass rush if he can keep that up.
One of the things about Maybin I don't understand is, you know, he had the play last night, and that was impressive, and he has tremendous speed. You would think a guy with that speed, and I'm not saying he can't, would be very good at covering tight ends, which is a weakness of the Jets. I mean, he's 6'4", 240, and he runs 4.5. You would think he's built like a tight end and runs like some of the top tight ends. So maybe that's something he can do for them down the road when you look at Aaron Maybin. The one thing about Aaron Maybin is he can run. And on that play, he was initially blocked, but the play kept going, and he tracked down the quarterback and caused the fumble. So his great speed is his biggest weapon.
Okay, let's see where to start. First, I want to start with the fact that nobody has said this yet, so I'll start it. As far as there's been a lot of blame going on, the blame game since last night. Well, I don't think it should be a surprise for anybody listening to the show the last couple of years that I'm going to put the blame on what's going on with Mike Tannenbaum. First of all, I just want to get this out there also that I think he's the best GM that the Jets have had since I've been following the Jets as I don't even know how many years, maybe 35 years as a fan. So I just want to get that out there. I think he's done a great job, but of course he could always do better. And this is one of the things we've talked about the last couple of years, Dan, is the fact that they did not do enough to bring in extra talented bodies, young guys, developmental guys along the offensive line. We talked about that a lot over the last couple of years. What happens if they have to deal with injuries? And it happened, and it was inevitable. It happened, and we're now seeing the result of that. And you know, I don't really see anything that's going to change except just getting Mangold back and hoping that Hunter gets better.
Yeah, I don't understand their mindset about Ducasse. Now, I'm not saying they should give up on him right now, but just because they believe one day he'll be good doesn't make him a good backup right now. Mm-hmm. That's flawed thinking. And this concept, and when Rex said it earlier in the week, it shocked a lot of the beat reporters, and I'm sure it shocked you and a lot of fans when he said, you know what, if Colin Baxter struggles at center, we can move Slauson to center and plug in Ducasse at left guard. And I'm sitting there going, you got to be kidding me. Ducasse hasn't proved he can play guard in the NFL. So why would that be the backup plan?
Yeah.
And then, to me, I think they scapegoated Colin Baxter a little bit last night, because that shotgun snap, I don't know what you think, it didn't look that bad to me.
No.
And so they blow the whole thing up. They move people around it, and then they made it worse. And then they brought Baxter back. So my point about Ducasse is simple, and this goes back to Tannenbaum, and this goes back to Rex and the point you were making. And Tannenbaum said to Rich Cimini recently, Vlad Ducasse is going to be great. He was kind of firing back at the criticism. That's fine if you believe that, but you need to be realistic now. He can't be a backup guard for you right now, and maybe not a backup tackle. He needs to be almost redshirted again this year if you want to hold out hope that he's going to turn out. So with that being said, they need a backup tackle. They don't have one. And the backup guard should be Schlotteroff, not Vlad Ducasse. That one I don't get either. Why would you claim Schlotteroff and then not play him at guard if you need to make a change?
Yeah, and you take a look at the changes that the Jets made from last year to this year, and that has affected the offensive line. It's just not the offensive lineman. It's not just Damian Woody's retirement, but Ben Hartsock they just allowed Ben Hartsock to go. Now, I don't know if that was something where he preferred going. I'm sure it was a money situation. And that was one of the things that, again, we have talked a lot about, not just letting Hartsock go, but deciding, okay, well, we'd rather spend money in other places, like bringing in a third wide receiver in Derek Mason and giving maybe him more money. In the draft, you draft Kenrick Ellis in the third round, a backup running back, so the Jets now have 4 running backs instead of adequate offensive line depth. And then just wasting a pick on Scotty McKnight in the 7th round. Well, people go, well, it's the 7th round. Well, the Dallas Cowboys started center Bill Nagy against the Jets in the 7th round. The Eagles are starting a 6th-round center in Jason Kelch. So don't tell me the 7th round doesn't mean anything.
No, the last couple drafts have not been great for the Jets overall, and there have been some dubious decisions. Scotty McKnight, if you like him, you could have had him as an undrafted free agent. He's got ability, but he's not somebody you needed to draft. And then you look at the fact that they traded a bunch of picks to trade up to pick the punt returner Curley. Now Curley's been okay, but he's made some strange decisions, as most rookies do, as far as when to catch the ball, when to let it drop, and things like that. But I don't know if you needed to trade a bunch of picks for him to move up and get him. So they didn't have a lot of picks, and they probably needed to have a different attitude about this draft. Keep all the picks. Don't pick Scotty McKnight. Sign him as an undrafted free agent, and get some offensive linemen in the building. It's amazing. To their credit, they did bring in Schlotteroff, who was a 6th-round pick in the draft, so they do have a 6th-round offensive lineman from the 2011 draft. Mm-hmm. But the attitude in the draft was very strange, to get the backup running back, to get the 4th or 5th wide receiver, and not address the offensive line. That was probably a mistake. And like I said, the whole situation with Ducasse makes absolutely no sense. They can be strong-willed about it, but don't put him in a game to prove a point. Put him in a game if you think he can help you.
All right, now, Mark Sanchez. There's a few things as far as the game itself, and sure, the offensive line was a problem, no question about that. You could also blame the game plan a little bit. I thought the game plan didn't make much sense, but again, this is the same game plan we've seen since the start of the season, which is we believe Mark Sanchez is an elite quarterback now, so we're going to play our game no matter what. We're going to play 3 wide receivers. We're not going to play a fullback, and we're not going to play mash protection with double tight ends, no matter, I guess, who we play. You would have thought that in the one game where you should have saw multiple tight ends to block, or Connor should have been in the game more, less 3 wide receiver sets, this would have been the game. But it's this reliance now on Mark Sanchez that he is all of a sudden an elite quarterback that, hey, even if we have a shaky offensive line, we trust Mark.
Right, and I just wanted to make one point before I got back to what you just said, because it was something you brought up before and I neglected to bring it up again, was Ben Hartsock. Mm-hmm. Ben Hartsock is a guy that did a very nice job as the number 2 tight end as a blocker to complement Keller. Matthew Mulligan is really struggling, and that's why they're bringing in tight ends this week to try them out.
Yeah.
Mulligan is just too inconsistent, and that's hurting the ability to block. He's been implicated in some big sacks. So when you look at that situation, that's a problem. As far as Sanchez, the Jets have a number of issues there. Number one, they threw 12 passes to Santonio Holmes in the game in Baltimore, and probably half of them he wasn't open. And to me, there was an appeasement factor there, because Santonio Holmes had said during the week he wasn't getting the ball enough.
There you go.
Jets have a problem. They have 3 number 1 receivers with 3 number 1 receiver egos. Though to Plexico Burris' credit, he really has not chirped about getting the football. So you need to, give him a little credit for that one. But, all the stories have been written about him not getting the ball. I can't blame him for that, but that's been a theme in the media. Derek Mason is a number 1 receiver in terms of his mentality. He should have signed with Tennessee and gone home. He would be much happier than he is right now, and that's a team that's doing better than the Jets, or is comparable to the Jets. So, the Jets' attitude about flinging it all over the football field with this quarterback is a mistake. Mm-hmm. He's all about, you run the football, play good defense, special teams, and Mark Sanchez, you play a conservative passing attack with safe passes, almost like the Raiders use Jason Campbell that way. That's who he is. Mm-hmm. They'll make him into something he's not.
And that's why I'm sick and tired of everybody laying the blame on Schottenheimer. The blame, look, there's blame to go around with everybody. He deserves as much blame as everybody, not more so. And if you want to blame a coach, or anyone upper management. You blame Rex Ryan and Mike Tannenbaum. And you can blame Rex Ryan about why the offense has opened up this way, because he's the head coach. Look at what's going on in Chicago the last 2 weeks. The last 2 weeks, Mr. Pass Happy, Mike Martz, got out of hand. And what happened? The Bears offense just totally looked out of sync. So what did Lovie Smith do? Obviously, he must have put his foot down, because Jay Cutler threw the ball 17 times yesterday, and Matt Forte rushed for 205 yards on 25 carries. That's what the head coach has to do. If this is Rex Ryan's team, he needs to say, I want to go back to running the football. And if he doesn't say that, then don't blame Schottenheimer.
Well, yeah, and the other thing is, even if the running game is not going well, when you look at that Raven game, the Jets' defense played very well. There were a few plays here or there, but what did Ray Rice, I know you're a big Rutgers fan, so you're a Ray Rice admirer. What do you have, 25 carries for 60-something yards?
Yeah,
so they,
he didn't, yeah.
They shut down Ray Rice for the most part, Ricky Williams. There was that one drive where they ran the football.
Sure.
But other than that, it was pretty good run defense, and Joe Flacco looked totally lost.
Yep.
So Rex Ryan and Mike Pettin did come up with a very good plan as far as pass defense for the Jets in that game. So in that kind of game with the Ravens, even if the running game's not working, overuse it. And even if that's the 3 and outs, do not allow Sanchez to be put in situations against a very good pass rush and also against a defense that disguises a lot of things to make mistakes. Sanchez, as we all know, it's been well documented, 24 points off his turnovers. You got to avoid that scenario at all costs. And if it means 3 and out and you're running or he's chucking the ball to the 10th row if it's not open, so be it. Because they need to really pull back. And I even said on the website today, maybe they need to go back to that color card system that Rex Ryan had, because they need to pull back big time on this quarterback, or they need to replace him, because the idea that they're going to go with this one-read quarterback who's forcing passes, and maybe not calling all the best plays for him is a formula that's not going to work for them.
Yeah, they do. They have to get back to the basics. This is supposed to be their strength is their defense and their special teams. That's why the Jets brought in Rex Ryan. Defense, Westhoff, special teams. Why they are allowing the offense to ruin their chances of winning, especially when your center, the best center in the league, is not playing. And you're playing one of the top defenses in the league in their stadium. If that's ever a game to be conservative, we should have seen that last night. We didn't see it. I don't know how much longer this is going to go on, where they're just going to keep doing what they're doing offensively. And again, you got to, at some point, you got to start pointing the finger at the head coach.
Yeah, and it was Rex Ryan's decision to bring in Derek Mason. And I'm not here to cast aspersions on Derek Mason. He's a heck of a football player and a heck of a competitor. But does it make sense to have a number 3 receiver who really, really wants and demands the football? Mm-hmm. All receivers want the football, but this guy has a history of demanding the football. And Sanchez is under so much pressure being the Jets quarterback in the number 1 market and all the stuff going on in his life. Do you need to throw this on his plate too, where he's got to work? Think about the mindset of a quarterback with essentially 3 number 1 receivers. He's thinking appeasement too much, not just throwing to the open man. You know, if you have to throw to Dustin Keller 10 times, if that's the play, that's what you do. You don't worry about Santonio Holmes saying he's not getting the ball enough. Very bad mindset Tannenbaum has set up for his quarterback by the cast of receivers he brought in. And also, is he really on the same page with them? You see plays where you're wondering if they really, really are in sync right now. There's one play, I'm sure you remember this play, Derek Mason and Burris were essentially in the same spot. And that's a play where they clearly, not all of them know the offense, and they're not in sync. And this brings me back to Braylon Edwards and Jericho Cotchery. They should have brought both of them back, because the one thing Sanchez had with them was chemistry after 2 full seasons with both players. And you can't discount that. I don't know why Rex and Mike Tannenbaum thought, hey, we'll bring in Mason and we'll bring in Plexico in August because of the lockout, and this is going to work out well as far as chemistry with our young quarterback.